Schwitzer. This is my 2019 and now the 7th year I've been doing this. And it's so great to see all of you. Thank you to people returning. Thank you to the new people. Thank you all for being here, for coming to.
On a Monday night, we bad
Yes.
idea, but we appreciate you being here. And then I'm gonna Bart, you want to introduce our students?
Sure.
Perfect.
We have 2 students running things this year, the student council president and vice president. President Yash Ahuja and, yes, okay, thank you, Yash Ahuja and Willa Marshke, student council vice president. And they're gonna explain things to you.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome to the 2026 Reality Fair meeting. As Mr. Wixer said, my name is Josh, and this is Willa, and we're the Student Council President and Vice President. So the purpose of today's meeting is to kind of give you guys an overview of some important information regarding the Reality Fair. So, yeah.
So a lot of you have already gotten started on this. So the Cori form, all participants need an active Cori to participate in our event. So you should have received an email that said whether your Cori is valid and not expired, or whether you need to renew it or get one in the first place. So please fill out the form now, and we'll photocopy IDs if you haven't already done so. And we can finish anything when we break into small groups.
So, since this is like a all morning afternoonish event, it's from like 9:30 to 2:30, we will be providing lunch. And luckily this lunch is better than what they serve us at the I decided to try it. So just by like a quick show of hands, if you plan on getting a turkey sandwich, could you raise your hand so we like know what
Turkey versus veggie, those are the options.
Turkey.
Veggies are awesome.
Okay. And then if you're planning on getting the veggie wrap, could you raise your hand?
The icon.
1/3 to 2/3?
Yeah.
I want the lobster.
Very good.
We're not.
Okay, so just some details for actually getting here. So you can park in the student parking lot if you go in and just kind of keep driving. It's the biggest parking lot. And then you can enter through the back of the school, and then the whole day, the whole event will take place in the gym.
Okay, so this is just an overview of the Reality Fair. So it's basically an event with the goal of teaching students information that's not usually taught in school, so like financial stuff that they'll use in the real world. Each student has selected a career that they plan to pursue in the future, and then we've assigned them like a corresponding salary based off like real life information. And at the Reality Fair, the students will rotate through booths that are run by you guys, and they make simulated purchases that reflect those of the real world, like housing, transportation, and clothing. And then at the end, they'll go to the budget counseling booth, which is at the end of the whole event. And then their choices and financial decisions will be like analyzed, and if they went over their budget and like it's not sustainable, they'll go back and revisit their choices and adjust like their decisions until everything balances out.
Okay, and then just some other notes of how to kind of interact with the students. We want this fair to really be for everyone, so all seniors graduating. Yes, there are a lot of students who plan on going to college, but it's really important to keep it inclusive, that we don't just assume that everyone's going to college. So before talking to them, you can kind of ask them what their plans are for next year and figure out what they're trying to plan for. And then we ask volunteers to dress work casual, and then student attire will be probably very casual.
So the students will be given a monthly salary and some deductions, as I talked about earlier, and they will also be given a credit score. It'll be like roughly a third, like, of the class has each score. So like a third of the class will have a 4 score, a third average, and a third above average. They will also have a career profile, which states their career. You can see like one page on the screen, but it's like a lot more in-depth. It says like what they'll typically do on a day-to-day basis, salary, like potential like futures with that job. And then they'll also have a budget worksheet and a quiz.
the worksheet's the one that you picked up on the way. We're still making some little adjustments, but it's a place to start. A little different than last year.
So here's just what our booths are gonna look like. We'll set everything up like the day before, and they'll each have a table and a tablecloth kind of set up so students can work their way through in kind of whatever order that works for them. We're gonna have signs that we'll go over later with the booth captains of the different purchasing options. So what the students will basically be choosing for themselves and getting help from you guys about how to plan. There'll be seating for volunteers at every booth and some for students, and then we'll have food and refreshments throughout the day in addition to the lunch. You can let us know of any dietary restrictions. We'll have volunteer name tags, calculators, pens and pencils, hand sanitizer, and tissues all at the booths.
So this is a sample budget worksheet. All the students will have one of these. So you can see it's like pretty specific information. It's not that they're just buying a bedroom. It'll be like an apartment in Framingham. So it'll like be more accurate costs and all. And yeah.
Okay, now, so we have a booth captain for every booth, or two. So we're gonna invite them up to talk about their booth and then kind of what the students decide there. And then their posters are also on the screen of what they will have presented to the students. So we have our welcome and orientation, Jen Taylor.
So Jen is not here, so I
Okay.
can't quickly speak to this, but basically, when they get their career packet and profile, the people at the registration orientation booth will help them understand what their deductions are, understand the order of the booths, giving them a little direction on marginal tax brackets. They probably don't understand the money that is coming out of their taxes, so the registration orientation booth just sort of gets them set up for the day before sending them around to the booths.
And then we have our personal savings booth.
Malin Herzog, this is my 5th year doing the personal savings booth. Basically, we just talk about the savings accounts, how important it is to save up for a rainy day, and kind of go through the products that we deposit.
And then the housing booth.
Don't think either of them are here. Charlie or Ujwala, you wanna say something about what goes on in the housing booth?
Okay. Ujwala appointed me. Okay, hi, everybody, I'm Charlie Passwalk, I'm with Keller Williams, and this is, I've been doing this probably since COVID ended. It's always good. So at the housing booth, what will happen was, the students will come by, and with their budget, they'll figure out if they can afford a place on their own, and where that would be, either in town or out in Metro West. And then they get the reality of, you can't afford it, you gotta get a roommate. And they look at each other and go, I don't wanna be your roommate, but I tell them it's just on paper. But at any rate, so then we work from there, and we send them from housing, they go through furniture, transportation, insurance, and all that other good stuff. So it's always fun. If you've never done it, it's fun.
So for the furniture booth is Diane.
Hi, I'm Diana Moss, and I'm doing the furniture booth again this year. As you can see from this slide, we have options for our students. So in both living room, bedroom, and kitchen, we offer them the thrifting option, which we tend to push. We're very encouraging of the thrift. But then there's mid-range, kind of low to mid-range, like a Target, and then we offer a higher end. For their budgets, it would be a higher end, probably more like an IKEA type of store.
And then we have transportation.
Yeah, so this is basically going to cover the financing and leasing options for purchasing a new or used car, or if you're using your own car, what it would cost to fuel, maintain, energy, parking. And so those are the kinds of things that we'll be essentially covering. And the theme will essentially be what you need before what you want. So if you want to get a Porsche, you'll have to live in it. Exactly.
And starve.
Stop.
And next we have insurance.
Nadine is not here. Here they're basically deciding, they're dealing with auto insurance and rental insurance and deciding kind of what level of insurance they want, having discussions about what those things mean. I will mention this tends to be one of the booths where the kids go in knowing almost nothing and they come away feeling like they've learned a lot. Some of their decisions that they make at this booth will affect later on when they spin the wheel, and we'll talk about that part, based on which insurance they got. Well, they may have to pay, they may lose less money if there was a burglary or something, or if there was an
$500
argument.
deductible and a $1,000 deductible. So if they purchase the best insurance, they have to pay less out of pocket, so.
And then we have the disability and life insurance.
Anyone is here, okay, so. Okay. So, yeah, so I don't even know.
So first of all, there are booths that are more just educational rather than things that are gonna factor into their budget. This is one of them where students just sort of listen to a presentation on what these things even are. What the point of disability insurance, well, I'm not gonna get hurt. Well, this is a just in case sort of thing and what you can get out of it. What life insurance is, who should get life insurance, different options there. This is not something that's gonna factor into their budget worksheet, but they're just gonna get a signature from the volunteers at the booth saying they kind of went through the educational piece.
And next is the food booth.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Cavallini. Gina's not here, but this is my 4th year doing this, and at the food booth, we have three different tiers of cost, and one is kind of the cheap convenience foods that are more on the lower budget side, but not necessarily healthiest choices. Then we kind of talk them through kind of an in-between, cooking some and getting in some healthier options, and then kind of the splurging and eating out, getting your coffee out and all of that. They do have options to kind of work it through by the day of the week and weekend, so we kind of walk them through like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and how that might look. Some of the challenges are they come in as roommates and they think they're all going to do the same things. We talk that through a lot as well, and also provide some handouts on eating on a budget and meal planning and things like that as well.
And then the clothing booth.
Hi, I'm Teeny Bowles, booth captain for clothing. So we walk them through what kind of clothing they need for the career they pick, uniforms, casual, business casual, professional, and talk them through the different store options like consignment, TJ Maxx, or the higher end Nordstrom. So talk a little bit about they do have to remember to save some money for cleaning, dry cleaning, maybe some dry cleaning and washing.
Sounds like they're drilling down on the budget over there.
Here until 5:30.
All right. Hi, I'm Jim Klepper. This is my 6th year. I skipped last year. Sorry. So I'm going to be here talking about medical and dental insurance with my team. It's interesting in that it's something that, first of all, most of the kids won't have to think about until they turn 26. Hopefully they can stay on their parents' insurance, but also hopefully they'll remember something. And the second thing is it's something that can get kind of complicated, and parents don't necessarily understand how it works all the time. So it can get a little complicated, but by the end, we're hoping they can understand things like deductibles and other fun stuff like that.
We have the education booth.
So Donald isn't here. Education is the booth where students deal with loan payments. Basically the cost of college, or if they're not going to college, the cost of either vocational prep or just being in a union with their union job or whatever. for, what else?
So they also talk about ways that they can save once they are in college, so doing work study program, work study. So they do talk about how to make college affordable for students who are planning to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, their salaries, they help us with determining the salaries because we base the salaries for the education level, if the school, so they
In some
help us go
cases.
through, in some cases, so they help us go through and identify the level of education that is needed for each of the careers that the students have chosen.
And next is the internet and cell phone group.
Erin wasn't able to make it tonight, but, I think the name is kind of self-explanatory, paying for internet, but also kind of realizing what, yeah, please,
Mary Beth and I did it
Excellent.
last couple of years.
please fill us in.
Yeah, so, and Aaron, we've been with Aaron for the same amount of time, yeah. So we come and go over different cell phone plans. They all just want to stay on their parents' phone. We tell them that's not possible, then they take the high data, we gotta have maximum data, and then we just educate them that you don't need that level of data, so that's a cell phone, and we also talk about, do you want a new phone, how often do you want to replace it, so just educating them there. And then TV, and if they have a cable plan or streaming services now, nobody has cable, you have streaming services, and so I want everything. And then we have the cost broken down for Hulu.
And again, they want to stay on their parents.
Yeah. So it's they come in and we just go over the costs associated, we get them to think about the different costs for each. So it's actually like all of them, they see their eyes open when they realize how much they have to pay.
So here's what you have to pay, rather.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kim Herder, doing the retirement savings.
I think you've been here since the beginning.
I've been here for a while,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We'll see how much of this stuck, because my older son is graduating and gonna have to do it in a life. What we really do focus on is how important it is, even though you're just out of college, start saving for retirement, and we explain the tax advantages, which is one of the key benefits to starting early.
And next is the self-care group.
Wendy Bertino, and this is the self-care booth, and self-care really is how to take care of yourself. It is gym memberships and haircuts, and then we get into massages and self-tanning, which may or may not be self-care in some people's book, but it's broken down, it's interesting, because it's all of those kind of costs, except for like the gym memberships, are all sort of a per instance. So a haircut, it's not per month, so unless you're, unless most guys get it every month, but, if you have long hair, what's the difference between this and this? Like, I probably only get my hair cut about 3 or 4 times a year. So it's interesting to kind of walk them through that. And then manicures, oh, no, I don't want to get a manicure. Well, are you ever going to go to a wedding? Are you ever going to go to, a graduation party or on vacation? You might want a mani-pedi, so we factor those in and break it out monthly. And this year I'm excited that we've added a different category where it is sort of the meditation and all of the apps that kids are using now, like things like Calm and all that. And of course, there's free versions, but we walk them through what the upgrade would be for the premium plans for that, so that's as well.
We have the luxuries.
Hi, Rebecca Cashin. So we're almost towards the end, I feel like, of the, because we're in all the fun stuff. They can choose between lots of things, like real things, like Sony headphones, a Starbucks gift card, shopping. There's event tickets, which are popular, concerts, theater shows, comedy shows. Activities like golf, skiing, vacations even. They can choose, you can go on a Disney trip, or maybe you could go camping. And then, there's also pets. Pets is an interesting one because we have a lot of people that come together. Oh, we're roommates. Are you gonna split this pet? How do you
Recommend dog walking instead of actually getting it. Make money and you don't have the responsibility.
This is the charity community service.
Hi, everybody, I'm Brandy. This is probably my 5th year
I think you've been here since the beginning.
doing this, and the charity and community service booth is awesome. It's funny because we're usually one of the very last things, and by the time the students get to us, they're like deer in headlights, like from all the stuff that they've been told that they're gonna spend. So when we talk to them about giving to charities and doing community service, they always look at us like, well, what's the cheapest option? But we talk about like giving to a charity, like what that entails. We give them a handout that really talks about what you should look for from an organization, like what the difference is in things like overhead. Is it a 501c3? Is it tax deductible? Questions to keep in mind. Also when you're donating objects and things like that too. Or other options that we have is like giving to a local, like what kind of impact you can make on your immediate community. So instead of giving to like a national chapter of something, giving local can make a big difference. We have another category of like for an event. So if somebody's running the Boston Marathon or sponsoring somebody for a walk, how you can budget for that. And then the last one is volunteering for a nonprofit organization and giving back to the community, which costs nothing. And I wo% say probably 80% of the students choose that. But we always do ask them, they have to put some thought into it, like what kind of group would you volunteer for? What kind of thing would you do? So it's important to kind of think it through. So, but, yeah.
We have the credit card booth.
So we have, the credit card booth is about building credit and just trying to show them, the dangers of getting into credit card debt too soon, too early. The differences between, establishing a relationship with a credit union where they may have better rates as opposed to just, the random email that they get and they sign up for a really high interest rate credit cards. They talk about predatory lending. So it's more about how to build credit. And then
This is another one of those educational booths where they're not gonna get anything added to their budget. This is just getting a signature saying you kind of learned a little bit about this. And this is not a credit cards are terrible. This is learning how you should be using credit, but using it appropriately. That's kind of their message.
Next is the part-time workers.
Everybody, I'm Scott. This is my second year doing this. So after they make all their either really good or really bad decisions with everybody else, and they realize they don't have enough money, they'll come to my booth and we can talk about part-time jobs. It's nice actually now because there's, like up here, it's more like the hourly ones that you would think about, but we talk a lot about gig jobs also, like deliver for DoorDash or, drive Uber or something of that nature. Kind of gives it a different spin on it. And then we also talk about resume building and resume writing, because it's really tough when you don't have any experience. So this is my example I always give them, just to kind of make them change their minds, or change their thought process. So I single-handedly managed the successful upgrade and deployment of a new environmental illumination system with 0 cost overruns and 0 safety incidences. I changed the light bulb. So I give them that to kind of help explain, how you're going to build that resume when you don't have a lot of experience and stuff like that. So.
Well done, Scott. Just use this on that side.
Yeah.
Next we have civic engagement.
Jess isn't here. Yolanda, can you tell us what this is
I'll
about?
take it, sure. Hi, I'm Yolanda, Civic Engagement. This is our 3rd year with this booth, and basically we talked to them about civic engagement, not just from volunteerism, but potentially running for office. And the other thing we really been talking about is registering to vote and voting, and how important it is to start. What was interesting, the first year we did this, we were heading into a presidential election, and a lot of them said, well, there's no one for me to vote for. But what we were able to talk to them about was local initiatives and how a local election is just as important, if not more important. But also we actually were registering people to vote, or if they weren't registered, or if they were registered, and talking to them about that.
Entrepreneurship.
Oh, I know.
So this is only our second year with the booth. Dr. Patricia Thomas is the Dean of the Business Program at Framingham State. And she had been a volunteer for years before, but then we sort of approached her last year and asked her to head up this booth. And Michael Klauser works with her in the business department as well at Framingham. We had a lot of students who were planning to go into business for themselves. You know, they say, I'm gonna learn a trade and start my own plumbing company. And so we thought it would be good for them to know sort of the steps that they need to take in order to start a business. And we have a lot of students who currently have side hustles and are, you know, budding entrepreneurs themselves. So we just thought that this would be a good addition. So they sort of talk about the process of starting a business.
And then the military.
Grant wasn't able to be here. Go for it.
I'm in the military booth, and myself and Grant, we explain to students who might be planning on entering the military service what to expect if they learn the basic training and their training period for their particular job specialty. And we also point out if they go to a state university or college, they can join the National Guard and they get free tuition and fees paid for while they go. And you usually get a paid patrol so they can complete 4 years out of 6-year enlistment while they're in college.
So all students are going to start in the registration orientation booth where they learn about their paycheck and all that, except for those students going into the military. We send them straight to the military booth because they get a different worksheet because certain expenses that other students have, they won't get. So just kind of orienting them to what applies to them, what doesn't apply to them, what booths they still need to visit, what their military background will take care of, the housing, the clothing, those things.
Last year we only had 1 student. This year we have 7, I believe.
Yes.
So, yeah, so
You'll be a little busier.
busier at your booth this year.
We get free room and board.
Next, we have hugs with Huxley.
So, we added this in a couple of years ago. Jennifer Pavia Shields is our school adjustment counselor. And we found that every year, this whole event, which takes students about 2.5 hours to work through, can be just really overwhelming for some people. This is the first time they've thought about some of these things that could affect their lives, and will it work, will it not work? She's just sort of there for a break. Huxley is our service dog. And just to kind of, take a break, just breathe for a moment. It's gonna be okay. Some reassurance. It will work out okay.
For us too.
Yes, and absolutely.
We have the reality check.
Yeah, so Ella Fawn was our Stuco president a few years ago and ran the event, like Yash and Willa, and she has now returned as a volunteer, and so she is running our reality check wheel. So after students make their way through all of the booths, they have to spin this wheel. There are some good things on it and some not so good things on it, and that gets deducted or added to their final monthly budget. And as we said, there are a few things on the wheel that if they have a certain kind of insurance that, maybe they get a little bit better of a deal. But some of them, include, we talked about a gambling loss, because that has become very popular among students the past few years. But there's also, car accident, dental work, just things
Which you'll
that-
save on if you have dental insurance.
Exactly. So things that just pop up that you to give them a little reality check.
And they may, after this, need to go back and make some adjustments elsewhere if because of this.
No more Starbucks.
Under for a month.
Maybe.
So,
So my name is Glenn Travis, and like Josh, I've been doing this from the beginning. So I guess I'm a veteran at this point,
Yes, you
7
are.
years, along with my amazing wife, Carrie. And then we do have a graduate from the Reality Fair from 7 years ago, who's now joined the budget counseling. Evan, if you can stand up. Stand up, Evan. So he's gonna join us this year. Sorry about that, buddy. In 2019, he was a graduate here from the Great Ashland High School. I will say we have an amazing group. I thank you all for your volunteerism. We volunteered a lot of different ways throughout the community. This is honestly, for my wife and I, one of our highlights, because being at the caboose, at the very end of all that you've kind of shared with the kids, granted they're tired, they are the deer in the headlights, but in the end we ask them simple questions like, what's one thing you've gleaned from today? And there has never been a student that hasn't had an answer to that question. this matters to them more than you realize, because this is quite unique. It's gaining momentum in other schools, but Ashland was kind of setting the bar years ago and kind of putting this all together. In the end, for our group at the end, we're really dotting our I's and crossing our T's, meaning we want to see all the signatures there from all of you. That really matters. We want to make sure that at the very end, they're in the black and not in the red. If they're in the red, we have a quick conversation. We don't tell them what to do. We ask them some open-ended questions. Hey, what do you think you need to do to shift some things around? And that's usually when the kitty cat goes bye-bye, or the Starbucks becomes a little bit less. But in the end, all the kids are going to have a balanced budget when all is said and done. I will say the kids with a poor credit score have a tougher time, so give them a little bit more grace, and give them a little bit more help, because their numbers are very different than the kids who scored really high on this here. But in the end, we want to make sure that the kids leave having fun, learn a lot of new things, even if it's just one thing. I think we've done our job, so thank you.
I realized we didn't talk about the credit scores and how those are calculated. So
Go for it.
I know for our new volunteers who may not be aware, we excused and unexcused absences and parties count against them. And so the more times you are late to school and absent from school, the more credit score
So, a couple random things. We need a few query forms back from a few people, and then in a moment we're going to split into groups based on what your booth is to get a little more information. Is Harmon Bindra here? I don't think I saw her. Peter, we need your query form back. We don't. Right. Jim Klepper, we need that. Julie Ramsey, we'll grab that. And then Bonnie, yes. We just need you to fill things out. And we'll need a driver's license from you. I will take that, and I think we can get the driver's license. Also, so we're gonna split into groups in a moment. We were wondering if anyone from budget counseling would be willing to trade a spot in transportation. And if not, we'll make it work one way or another. You're gonna go with budget counseling. Yes, from budget counseling.
What kind of car is it?
Thank you. You can deal with cars. I think that's it. We'll split into groups. Oh, wait, no. So at the end of the reality fair, and actually we're gonna need your help with this tonight as well, the kids for the past couple years have had some sort of physical takeaway to kind of remember things. We used to give them little credit cards, not actual credit cards, but things with just reminders from each booth. And last year we switched to magnets. We've got a bunch of magnets left over. People who don't have one from last year, please take magnets. But one thing we're gonna need at the end of the night, and some booths have already given us this information, but one takeaway that your booth wants the kids to remember. Ideally, it's something related to your topic. So housing should be housing related and so on like that.
So that was in a Google Doc that I shared with booth captains. So if you weren't sure what you wanted to do, you can have a conversation with the other volunteers, maybe try to come up with something. We're hoping to have that whole sheet completed before you leave here tonight so that we can get the magnets printed in time.
Anyone here want to?
So when we split into groups, the food group and the furniture group, rather than the iPads that we've used in years past. Last year we used Chromebooks, they seem to work better. And we actually have Chromebooks as opposed to iPads. So we've got some that we can get out tonight, we can get you guys logged in and see the spreadsheets. We'll be around to deal with those two groups, just getting you guys oriented.
So you can kind of, booth captains kind of call out so that you can sort of break up and around the library. I know a few booth captains are not here, so Mr. Wixner and I will kind of jump to each of those groups. One of us will definitely be with the registration and orientation booth because I know that that booth has been completely overhauled and everyone is through there, so we will help fill in. But yeah, so booth captains, if you just can kind of yell out and find a space in the library to meet with the other volunteers and tour.
Do we have a place to go, or we just,
You just find a
find a spot?
on the spot.
Good to see you. How are you? We're gonna meet over there, I think. Okay. All right. You know, around the table. Well, no, if all these people leave, we can meet here. Though. If they're all leaving, we'll meet here. Why not?